Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything.
Apple says is the next big thing.
This is what everybody is talking about, the iPhone from Apple.
I think the iPhone itself is a revolutionary product. It's an incredible bit of kit.
iPhone.
Original iPhone.
iPhone.
How old were you when the first smartphones came about? I was 11 when the original iPhone was unveiled to the world in 2007. It was the pioneer for the smartphones that we know today, with a fully fledged capacitive touchscreen that revolutionised the way we interact with our phones, and importantly, made internet roaming not cumbersome and fiddly like all phones before it. Internet use was predominantly understood as a desktop activity until this point in time. Mobile internet use rewrote the rules and changed how we consume the internet. The second generation of iPhone, called iPhone 3G, fused this new dimension of software usability with the introduction of the App Store, a whole market ecosystem where developers could let their imaginations run wild and create an expanse of software. This reimagined the use of mobile phones from how we consume media to important daily tasks like work emails and mobile banking. The smartphone was born. All of a sudden, we had a hyper-accessible and hyper-efficient computer in our pockets, and it was much more than just a technological revolution. Unlike that of a political movement where politicians look to shift society to ideas that align with their own political agendas, the invention of the smartphone did not intend to seek and influence power over the masses, but to enhance the individual's lifestyle. But it ended up doing so. It granted an unprecedented interconnectedness with others, an explosion of information from the internet all at our fingertips. In the morning, the smartphone is the first thing people on average check. This is checked not necessarily out of needing to, but out of habit for another 33 times in a day. The profound nature of this interconnectedness is not necessarily defined by the positive attributes that smartphones provide, rather the rebalancing of how we project ourselves and connect with others upon the physical and digital world. The smartphone has become an extension of ourselves, a second brain of sorts, or perhaps a stomach would better illustrate the ravenous gluttony from which we consume data. And not necessarily truthful data, for this is data that we notice, for which attracts us to view via being congruent with our worldviews and reinforcing those beliefs, or data for which contradicts our understanding of reality that we fervently oppose. The repulsion that a social media post can erupt inside us when it threatens to throw our understanding of the world under the bus, threatens our fealty to our subscribed ideology to which explains some of our past trauma. But this is a subject for another episode. And besides, this piece of content that I've produced is nothing better than a glamorized social media post in of itself. Another radio wave in a bunch of static, a dandelion seed floating over saturated soils. Only, help this dandelion by liking and subscribing. Did you like that shameless plug? Thought it worked quite well. The smartphone revolution has had a profound effect on how we perceive and behave towards the world. We've opened Pandora's box, progressing into unknown territory, whether this revolution is for the better or not. How did this change us? Firstly, we should look at smartphone usage sociologically, how we used our time. Any previous restraints we had on computer usage had been shaken from its shackles. In October 2016, worldwide mobile internet use overtook desktop usage by 51.3% to 48.7%. Smartphones turbocharged the functionality of our lifestyles to the point where, without access to one, would put you at a disadvantage to everyone else. In this regard, as a technological product, it was almost too big of a human enhancement, a victim of its own success, where smartphone usage was normalized and integrated as part of society. It provided such an excess of functionality at the micro level that it rippled the fabrics of the macro level to new paradigms. It went from an enhancement of the experience to the experience itself. Numerous jobs, such as delivery driving, now require the employee to use a smartphone as part of their businesses. With this momentum from sociological expectation and pressure, it made the smartphone train an unstoppable force with no time to reflect on if there were any potential immovable objects in its way. In this case, the immovable object being curtailing the social sphere off balance to the way people behaved in a pre-smartphone era. So what is the psychological draw of smartphones that pulls you here? There's gathering evidence supporting the idea that an active social life is essential for well-being, ranging from living longer, physical health, mental health, and specifically brain health. It is a biological imperative for us to socialise, to connect with people that we know and love as much as we need to eat and sleep. Yet, a lot of us struggle to. Enter the smartphone, a device that allows you to socialise with friends and family in moments of spare time. Hyper accessibility to whatever they are doing throughout the day. The perfect accessory. Too perfect. Too perfect to the degree, similar to how smartphones have engulfed our culture on a macro level. It has warped socialising with others on the personal level. We have desensitised ourselves from overexposure to each other. Socialising with each other in the real world just doesn't seem as important when you can connect over the internet. I can only imagine in this pre-smartphone world the magic of reconnecting with friends and learning all the things they've been up to since you've last spoke. Instead of an accessory, it's becoming a substitute for the real thing. And for many, it has. The reality check. What is so important about socialising in real life? Some people might be astounded that I'm actually having to justify this, as it just should be instinctual to people, but for people who suffer from crushing social anxiety, like me, you need the reasoning. You need that extra justification to go outside. As humans, we are biologically designed to be social. Social isolation has been linked to physical health problems equivalent of smoking and alcohol consumption, and of higher risk factors to that of physical inactivity and obesity. Seeing someone in the eyes, seeing how they smile, laugh, grieve, and empathize, using body language to express themselves, our brains need this intimacy to feel connected to others, to alleviate the perception of loneliness. It is the doing in the real world that brings our minds back to reality. A reality check. To feel connected to others, to feel understood, to feel valued, to feel loved. We have a quotient of socialising for which we must fulfil. Even if one finds success in their careers or academia, these are all manufactured accomplishments when compared to being socially successful. In fact, success in those areas could be argued is just tools in improving how socially successful you are. But perhaps this pales in comparison to the maliciousness that isolation can inflict upon mental health. It is a direct causal factor for depression, personality disorders, and cognitive impairment. What's critically important about this is that it isn't just people who are socially isolated, but people who perceive themselves as socially isolated from the rest of society. These people lack meaningful, intimate relationships with anyone. This is pivotal in understanding the potential ramifications this has on smartphone use, a technology designed to artificially inflate our social interconnectedness, sacrificing intimate and meaningful relationships for superficial projections of ourselves on a two-dimensional screen. Even if you might have friends, you might have family, you might have people that technically, to any outsider, they might say that you're socially well-adjusted. If you perceive yourself as being isolated, it can be just as damaging to you. So there's clearly a desperate demand, a need in society, a void, a black hole that needs to be filled for loads of people who feel lonely, who might not even be socially isolated, but they perceive themselves as lonely, misunderstood. And while smartphones can be an excellent stepping stone for people who are socially more isolated, that don't have many friends or family nearby, every effort should be made into trying to get them to socialise in real life, to take the next step when socialising with people. And God, I need to listen to my own advice. It's very, very difficult to segue away from from the abyss, really, from a very dark topic point. But what if friends and family that you have a meaningful relationship live far away? A potential compromise might be found in the use of video calling. There was a study that revealed the benefits of video chatting in slowing the deterioration of dementia in sufferers when they compared them to dementia patients who had no social contact. This added visual stimuli of seeing friendly faces can help to convince our brains that we are engaging in real-life socializing, and can be an important role that smartphones can play in improving our mental health. If there's anything to take away from this video call people as much as you can. To conclude, we need to exercise the precautionary principle in consuming our smartphones. Being the first generation to have 24/7 mobile access to the internet is yet to be fully understood. With emerging links between anxiety and depression being published, we must moderate our smartphone use sensibly. Smartphones at the very least enable negative perceptions of oneself from cannibalizing desires for real-life socializing, and social media destabilizing our real-life social worth and identities. People who perceive themselves as lonely are especially vulnerable to the damaging addictive effects, as well as sharing genetic susceptibility to anxiety and depression. We must help to improve our perceptions of reality through methods such as mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapy, and yoga. We are the guinea pigs. Just remember that as you're lying in bed, unable to detach yourself from your phone. Think of guinea pigs. And if you're lying in bed right now, put the phone down and get some sleep. After you like and subscribe to my channel, of course.